they just find it on their own, or do you
Usually they will find it on their own. If you are absolutely positive that you don't have a substantial water source within a mile or so of you, I like something like a little kiddie pool. What I use in my yard is I have I've got one of those concrete mixing tubs. It's about 2 feet by 3 feet. I fill it up with water and I float corks or styrofoam peanuts on it so the bees won't drown. And to get them to find it, lean on your mentor for this because you won't have any. To get them to find it, I float a couple of pieces of old honeycomb. It won't work well with new honeycomb. They really like that. And once they find it, they're always going to know it's there. They need to find it once. But again, if you think that there's a creek or a pond or whatever, within a half mile or a mile from you, you're fine. If your next door neighbor has a swimming pool, I think who was it who asked me about the next door neighbor in the swimming pool? Nobody this year. Good.
But I have a neighbor who has a swimming pool, but I don't think they use it because I've only been there one summer, but I never heard anybody over there splashing around or anything. So
Well, the community pool.
Yeah, but if the bees are using it, they'll be upset.
No, I think it's covered all the time. I don't know if
All the time? Okay.
I don't even know if they use it at all.
I mean, I would strongly suggest that, if you do establish bees, once they find your neighbor's swimming pool, you will have the devil's own time telling them that that's not the best water source in the world.
I'm probably going to try to have some sort of
Yeah.
pond or something.
Again, something like, I found that the concrete mixing tub is like, a heavier gauge. I don't know how long a kiddie pool will last. It tends to be really thin. But I've been using that for years and years and years and years. And I just put it somewhere. I put it somewhere in the yard. And I got bees in the front and I got bees in the back. And I just use one. They find it.
I know you
tell us
don't.
again
I'm
about
sorry.
pollen supplements.
That's a good one.
About pollen supplements.
Where, when and how should we put, I mean, I know you said put it on paper plate, but when do we put that in?
You could put it in, as soon as you configure your hive after you get the bags and stuff out of it.
Okay.
After a week or so. If you are using, the pre-made up patties, just use small pieces. Don't use a whole patty. Just use small strips and they go right over the brood nest. And just, you can pop the top and take a look down and see whether or not they're eating them. If they're not eating them, they're bringing in. I mean, they would much rather have natural pollen than this, soy protein crap.
So were you saying that we don't necessarily need to do that?
Need to use pollen? It's a good idea to give them a protein source. I don't always. I mean, this year I happen to have a lot of pollen, so I'm going to be giving these pollen. But if I didn't have any, I probably would say it's not that important. Again, the pollen is their protein source. It's good for building brood, so it's not going to hurt. It's probably a good idea.
And can,
Just lay the strips across the frames?
Yeah, if you're using the patties, just lay them on the frames, just across the, right over where the majority of the brood.
yeah, I'm gonna have to go tomorrow.
Where do we get that?
Can we use the pollen from like a health food store? Like the kind that comes like the yellow granulated pollen that you buy in the health food stores?
I do not know.
I'm just thinking of like a fast source if you can't go to Daydan or something.
Yeah, again, that's natural pollen. The stuff that the stuff that's in the pollen patties, which is not really pollen, although sometimes there can be pollen in it. But it's primarily a soy protein mixed with sugar syrup and some other enzymes and other stuff that's been judged to be decent for bees. The thing about giving them natural pollen is if you don't know where it comes from. The majority of the pollen that's sold commercially comes from China. What the heck is that? If it has not been irradiated, it will contain foul brood spores. It will. There are foul brood spores you know, in the environment.
So you're inviting trouble, maybe?
So I know some of the beekeeping supply places will sell natural pollen, and they will tell you that it has been or it hasn't been irradiated.
When do you take your first baseline check for mites?
I would say probably after at least your first big generation of brood.
Okay.
Because you want to. So let's say the first egg that hatches will probably be on.
In a month and a half?
A week from
45
today,
days?
Roughly a month, roughly 30 days from today, your first bees will emerge. So I would say allow a full 2 brood cycles.
Okay.
So which would be probably about
2 months?
6 to 8 weeks roughly.
Okay.
Again, just to get a baseline.
Sounds good.